Well, hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Mastery Show, where we showcase 6, 7, and 8-figure entrepreneurs, subject matter experts, and thought leaders who share their breakthroughs, their challenges, and their successes, which you too can emulate to get success in your own business. I'm absolutely delighted to have with us today Kate Beeders. Kate is an international known success coach, author, and speaker, specializing in helping entrepreneurs to make money fast. And ultimately, who doesn't want that? She has developed a powerful technique called Success Activator System, which combines her 3 areas of expertise of business development, tapping, and the laws of attraction. What I love about this system is that it helps her clients to succeed on their own terms. Now, many of you who are familiar with the show and my programs will know that we have explored this concept numerous times. A success is very much in the eye of the beholder. And therefore, your definition may be quite different to mine or Kate's. But irrespective of this, what Kate's system does is that it helps her clients, as she puts it, to become bigger, bolder, and better as they attract more clients, more opportunities, more money, and develop more self-confidence. So irrespective of where your definition sits on that spectrum, you are going to find this of interest, I'm sure. This technique has helped Kate to increase her own income to over 6 figures very rapidly, as well as helping her clients to make more money quickly, many of whom have doubled their income in a very short space of time. So Kate, a very warm welcome. Delighted to have you on this show.
Thank you. I have to say, being from Boston, I'm just loving listening to your accent.
And likewise, me yours. No, we're very, very happy that you're with us and that you're taking time out to talk to our listeners today. So very warm welcome.
Thank you.
So I always ask clients to kick off by telling us a little bit about some of your earliest memories of what you wanted to become when you grew up, because it sort of sets the scene for our listeners, particularly some who are wondering whether they're on the right path in terms of success. Sometimes we doubt ourselves. And so did you always have an entrepreneurial sort of line in your family? Did you always feel entrepreneurial? How did you come about doing what you do?
So actually, I have kind of a 2-sided story. And to answer your question, yes, I did always have an entrepreneurial side. My great-great-grandfather actually started a business. And I remember years and years ago when I was a little kid it was in the Midwest. So it was about, 1,000 or so miles from where I live. And when we would go visit as a family, and I was like, wow, I just really like this. I like having the idea that he just kind of created this whole thing and it's all his. It just, when you're a little kid, you just get, you get impressed with big things. Mm-hmm. So that started out, and I was like, I kind of like the idea of being able to be my own boss. But so that's kind of the business side of me. And just for those of you who don't know me yet, I'm known for having both expertise in mindset and marketing. So that's kind of where the business side came. But the mindset, did you ever see the TV show Bewitched?
Yes.
Okay. So I did too. I used to watch the reruns, and I loved that show. And I'd walk around the house and wiggle my nose. And I loved how Samantha would just like wiggle her nose, and the house would get clean, or the car would fill up, or the car would pull up in front, whatever, right?
Yes.
And as a little kid, I was like, wow, I love this. It's magic. And I just love the fact that whatever she thought about, she could make happen. And I used to think I was going to be her when I grew up. I figured when I grew up, I'm going to be just like Samantha and be able to have whatever I want, whatever I think about, just wiggle my nose, have it happen. And I really thought that would happen because my uncle actually created the TV show.
Oh, wow. You kept the best bit to last.
Exactly. So I thought genetically in my blood, to be that.
Yeah.
But what I really learned from it is obviously I didn't grow up to be Samantha, but I did really have this strong, strong feeling and belief that there's no limit. It's like we can have what we want. And that's really part of the mindset teaching I do with my clients is really just being aware that, it's starting that whole process, and we can create our own abundance and all that. So it did start for me at a very early age. Of course, like most of us, society and all stuff tries to like stop you and practical and be real and all this other, stuff that they tell us and stop. But now that I'm back into my own, it feels really good to show up in my own brilliance.
Brilliant. So tell us a little bit about, did you go straight, I know the answer to this, but did you go straight into your entrepreneurial journey, or did you, like a lot of us, start in a salaried state?
So with me, I actually started out of college. I was a flight attendant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something, being a flight attendant, especially someone who is, I am kind of shy technically, and I'm also a bit of an introvert, that you learn to talk to people. And, also, it really helped me a lot, because now as a coach, when I'm working with people in their business, it isn't just straight business, like what strategy, it's like the fears and doubts and things pop up. And I'll tell you, when you're a flight attendant, I mean, you see everything. And
I'm sure.
I did that. I was a regional manager in retail. So I traveled all around the country. I was responsible for opening and closing stores. They would send me out, and I'd have to make a decision to say open or not. And I use that to these days, that when people come up to say, like, I don't know if I should keep my business or not. I mean, my boss gave me that power to say, like, do we keep the store? Do we close it up? Do we let everyone go? And so those are skills I learned. So now I'm able to help entrepreneurs that way. And then most recently, for about quite a while, I was a business development executive. So it meant I had to go, when you start off in that position, at least how I started, they didn't give me a list, right? Just like in our own business. It's not like they go, here are the clients, here they go, and they're all ready to spend money for you. So go spend your money, go take their money. I mean, it isn't like that. I had to go find clients out of nowhere and turn them into multi-million-dollar deals. And obviously that has been a skill that helped me grow my own business into 6 figures, and now teach my clients as well.
So quite a diverse background. And of course, what we, as we know with many people, we can draw, as you've rightly said, on so many of those experiences as we go forward, not only in our own business, but helping our clients. And clearly you've got quite a lot of experience there. But they were quite different. They were quite different from the flight attendant right through to the business executive, and then your own business as a coach. Describe some of the challenges that you've faced on your journey so far, and most importantly, how you've overcome these.
So how I've overcome it. Yeah.
One or two really key challenges that you've had in your life, in your work life.
I would say basically every time I've had this happen where I have made a shift, I've always had a really great mentor.
Right.
And I will tell you that in corporate and in all that stuff, in my other positions, it wasn't so much about hiring. Now, of course, coaching is huge, but it wasn't so big then. So, but I've always had a mentor. Now, of course, I pay for my coaches. So that has been a huge thing, because you need someone to guide you. And the other thing is understanding about mindset, and getting the help to help me through all my fears and doubts, because we all have our own stories that we tell ourselves over and over again that hold us back. So between the two things of having the mentor to tell me the strategy part, and then the support with the mindset stuff, has just made all the difference. That's why I've been successful each and every time.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, if I reflect back on my own career, which is like yours, is very different and very varied, it's always been the mentors that have assisted in that process and been the sounding board for, helping us through that process.
But we need it.
Absolutely. We all need it. And we need it throughout our career, irrespective of where we are, however successful we are. And the more successful we become, the more we need them, of course, as we go through. But what I'm hearing is that they were quite tremendous changes for you through that process. So what made you have that first leap, say, from the flight attendant to the next job? I mean, that's quite a substantial shift. So what made you have that first shift, and how did you deal with that?
Well, the first shift, quite honestly, was happening because my airline was having some big problems.
Okay.
And so it was more like I could kind of see the writing on the wall. And initially I went into the airlines, quite honestly, because I wanted to do marketing. And what I was told is that if you want to be a marketing executive in the airlines, the way to do it is either be a ticket agent or gate agent, or else a flight attendant. I was like, I don't want to be a ticket agent. No offense to anyone who is, but I like to travel. I didn't want to be stuck behind a counter. And when I got hired to be a flight attendant, it was 1 out of every 800 applicants. So at that time, it was harder to be a flight attendant than it was to get into Harvard Business School. And even in Europe, Harvard is.
Oh, absolutely.
So it was more and more, it was super competitive. But the same thing. So what I honestly did was, when I realized I kind of saw the writing on the wall and said, okay, it's time to make a change, I did what I would, if this was what I was coaching into. But I did a lot of informational interviews, and I talked to people, and I talked to tons and tons of people till I kind of felt the right thing that made sense. And I happened to land into this position that was actually pretty much not a beginner position, but, you know, kind of introductory type position.
Mm-hmm.
And because it was a small company run by the entrepreneur himself, and he's basically the person who created off-price retail. I don't know if you have that in the UK, but, you know,
what's it called?
Off-price retail. Like now there's like TJ Maxx and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, we know the T Max, but I don't think we have the offline retail.
Yeah, it's what it's called, the umbrella of what it actually is.
Oh, I see.
You have department store clothes, and they're sold for less.
Oh, I see. Yes.
So it's a big, huge, multi-zillion dollar industry. But I learned from the entrepreneur himself who started it all, and he just gave me this huge, tremendous flexibility. I'm one of these people, like, I've got ideas, I've got this, I've got that, and I got something like $35,000 in raises in the first, 8 months I was there, because I kept bringing him ideas, you know.
And he obviously liked the idea of, yeah.
One day I bought my own headset, you know, I bought it at some store, and I showed up with it, and he's like, I like that. He goes, can you buy them for everybody here in the company? And here's another $10,000 raise. I'm like, rock on.
Fantastic. Who wouldn't like a boss like that? But I mean, it's lovely, because someone who is not only entrepreneurial, but is willing to develop people and use their ideas to develop the business. Fantastic opportunity. So you learned a lot in that period, clearly.
Exactly. And also, just to backtrack, is that we all are taught stuff from our parents, and we all have really great things we've learned from our parents, and not so good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Something I learned from my parents is really that my mom, especially, that taught this thing, like, you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah.
And very much about, you know, just kind of moving forward that way. And my brother's that way, and my sister's that way. And it's something just kind of instilled in us.
Yeah.
So that's a skill that I have. I know that most people don't, but I know that's something I'm able to teach my clients. That way they don't hold back. So just the fact, like, I mean, I showed up with a headset. I mean, who would have thought of that, right? You know, and the guy loved it, and he's like, here's some money. And I'd have another idea, and he's like, here's some more money. And, you know, but most people will keep those ideas to themselves. And it's just how I was brought up. And like I said, we all have different things, how we were brought up to do and not do.
And of course, it then makes complete sense what you've said about what was instilled in you and how you have run with that, is that you are not risk averse, because actually you then went on to open your own business, because those who are risk averse would have really struggled with that concept. But even not being risk averse, what were the issues for you? Did you hit the ground running and make a success of your business? Or did you, like a lot of us, find that there were trials and tribulations? And what were some of those trials, if indeed they were there? What were the trials and tribulations?
So I'd love to tell you, like, all this marketing material out there that I started from nothing and made $1 million in my first day.
That's why I'm asking, because I don't believe a word of it either.
You know, we're also these ads on Facebook, and honest to goodness, it's like, how do these people sleep at night? But anyway.
Exactly. I've yet to meet a single one, and I've met many millionaires in this business, but no, I've yet to find one.
Yeah,
if they're being honest.
Lots of people, and it's just, But anyways, so what happened to me is that my business is what's called an accidental entrepreneur. And I started my business quite accidentally, because the way, and I'm doing some quotes, the way you should do it is, like, you have your business plan, and you've got this and you've got that, and you start getting clients while you're working a regular job or a career. And then when you finally get enough, then you replace that income with your business, and you say goodbye to your job. I kind of dived in, and again, like you said, not risk averse. I just kind of did it. And for me, it was more like, this thing has to work, because if it doesn't work, I'm not going back and doing it. And what happened, though, what was really interesting is that if you knew me at that point, you would sit around and say, like, wow, where are you getting all these clients from? Because I actually got a lot of clients very much in the beginning. And so that was not my problem. I know how to get clients. That to me is easy. The problem for me in the beginning, quite honestly, is that I wasn't making any money. Because what would happen is, when I was in corporate, it was easy to sell someone else's stuff, right?
Yeah.
Someone wanted to buy this. Oh, it's $5 million here, you know, and I have no problem selling that. When you're selling yourself, you're not, it's yourself.
Yes.
And the first time someone said to me, well, that's a lot of money, I took it personally.
Yes.
And I thought they were saying, I'm not worth it. Because that's how our
Mm.
mindset, like I said, I'm a mindset expert. Our mind just goes right to that point. Like, we're not worth it. And after that, I started giving it away. I started doing trades like, oh, we're in the same group together. You know, it's Thursday. You can have a 50% off discount.
Mm.
I mean, I was doing all sorts of stuff like that. Anything but have somebody tell me that I wasn't worth it.
Mm.
So what was happening is that here I'm getting all these clients. They're writing me these emails or calling me on the phone like, Kate, oh my God, I just doubled my income, or I just got this, or I just got that. Never thought it ever would happen to me. They get these amazing, amazing results through. And part of me is feeling really, really excited. Like, yay, it's validating what I'm doing. It's validating my work. But the other part too that was really difficult for me is I started getting really angry. And at first I wouldn't admit that, but then I realized I'm really angry because I'm helping you, for example, all of a sudden double your income or charge more money or go out and get 10 new clients, but you aren't paying me for it. And money, being an expert in money, money is energy. So it's got to be an equal exchange, however that exchange might work. So when I'm shortchanging myself, as a result, I wasn't able to pay my bills and they're stacking up. And I had to do a lot of things. I ended up selling things in consignment shops. I ended up getting a job, all sorts of things, till I finally said, this enough is enough. And then I hired a coach. I scrambled every last penny I had, hired somebody, and I got the help with the mindset. I got the help with the marketing, because otherwise I don't think you'd be talking to me today, because I just would have been giving everything away. And then once I was able to shift through that, everything shifted. I hit 6 figures in the beginning of year 2. I've gone on, I'm high multi 6 figures now, and profitable. To me, profitable is the key difference. I don't care if someone's making 7 or 8 figures. I know lots of people there and they no profit.
Precisely. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, 6 and 7's fine, but if your costs are just as high, then, I mean, you know, you're running yourself ragged into the ground for no reason, frankly, in my opinion.
Exactly.
Couldn't agree more. So that took a while. How long did that take? Give us an idea of the timeline for those who are listening in.
So probably around the beginning of year 2 is when things start to really, because I got the shifts. I also, again, you know, I know how to get opportunities. I like to teach clients how to get that too. I was on a big, huge world summit, telesummit, which had 500,000 listeners, which
brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, so to hear him year 1 in my business and I have 500,000 people listen to me talk, you know, and I did it again in year 2. So I started attracting all these amazing opportunities because I started gaining the confidence in myself.
Yeah.
But the thing I teach people is that you have to start laying the seeds, right? You got to start planting the seeds and planting those seeds and planting those seeds. And then one day, all of a sudden you turn around, you've got this beautiful garden. And what people do is they plant the seeds and they go the next day, because I did the same thing. Where are the flowers? Where are the flowers? It's like, well, you know, come on. You know, you got to plant it, you got to water it, make sure it gets done. You got to give it time.
Yeah, absolutely. So when was your aha moment?
When
did your first aha moment come in terms of your business? Can you remember that? Or your greatest transformation? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, my biggest transformation was probably around the mindset piece. It's just understanding that we are not our thoughts. Yeah. And understanding how powerful the subconscious mind is. That was huge. That was totally huge. And I've just based so much of my work around that.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And so you've been on this path of success. And in my introduction, I said that not only do you teach clients to make money, but you've been following that same system. So do you want to share something about the system that you followed? And do you still follow it, by the way?
Yes. So my money acceleration system, I love, because I pull it out all the time, because what happens is it's kind of a circle. It's like you get to a place, but then, okay, so now you hit 5 figures. Well, now you want to get to 6 figures or whatever. You know, it's always that new, you know, that expression. I don't really like it, but new level, new devil, you know, there's always the growth. And the way I describe it, when you're going through these big transformations, for me personally, it always felt like I was being pulled through a keyhole. You know, it was just uncomfortable. I just want to cry all the time feeling. And it,
oh dear.
And I tell my clients that it doesn't just happen once. I mean, because you're either growing or dying. Nothing stays static. Nothing stays static. It's always growing or dying. So in your business, you always have to look at it. Am I growing or am I dying? You can't just go like this.
Yeah.
So my system, just quite basically the way it works, and it's so powerful, is that it's made up of 5 zones, and the first is your comfort zone. And that's what everybody is today, right? You know, there's good things about it, there's bad things. It's like saying in a job that maybe you don't like so much, but it's what you know how to do, or or doing all the work yourself instead of hiring a team because you know how to do it, right?
Yeah.
It takes up all your time, it stresses you out, but you know how to do it. So the first thing is for someone to really have growth is they have to be willing to say, I'm willing to step outside the comfort zone. And like I said, that's how I used to feel being pulled up through a keyhole, but you have to be willing to say, I'm willing because I want something better. I want something more. I want to be more in my life.
Yeah.
And then the next step I take people through is what I call the money zone. And that's really getting the clarity. Clarity is the key word of what is it that you want to create? Because like you said in the beginning, everybody has their own vision and version of what success looks like. Because for me, it's going to look very different from you versus all the clients I work with. And it's really understanding what that is, honoring it, because you have to have the desire, right? Because if you have this burning desire, you're going to sleep late. You're not going to work. You're going to get distracted. You're going to go here, you're going to go there. And you have to believe in it, because no one's going to believe in your dream as much as you do. I don't care how much someone loves you. You're going to be the one who believes in it the most.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
Then the next step is, I'm going through this quickly because I know we just have a limited amount of time.
That's okay.
But the next step is the marketing zone. That's taking action, because even though I totally, teach and follow laws of attraction, you need to sit around and wish and hope and pray. You got to take some action, right? It's like, you can't just say, I want to meet the man of my dreams. You got to go get a pretty hairdo, get a pretty outfit, put some makeup on, and go to the party,
Yeah, do something.
Exactly. And you got to know what action to take, because as entrepreneurs, there's bright, shiny object syndrome, everything's out there. What do I do? There's so much, and then also FOMO, fear of missing out. So what do you do that makes sense? What's your next step to do that is aligned with your goal, and understanding that? And that's something I'm always reminding and pulling my clients back to. And they're like, okay, now I'm going to go do this. And I'm like, wait a minute. How does this align?
Yeah.
And then what happens is what I call the freak out zone. And the freak out zone is so what happens is, let's say you're my client and I help you, we come up with a new program, and instead of you charging $500, now you're going to be charging $2,500. Well, that's a big deal. And during the coaching call, you're like, yeah, this is great. I'm ready for it. It's time and all that. Well, the first time you talk to a client on the phone and they say, $2,500, I don't think so. That's too much. I'm sorry. And they hang up. You're going to say, see, I never should have done it. I should have left it at $500. I should have tried to do it at $500. She would have said yes. $2,500. She says, no, I just lost the client. This stinks. I'm going back to where I was. So what happens is, however this shows up, whether it's hiring a team member, whether it's trying a new product, whether it's increasing your pricing, whatever, you're going to want to, the way our mindset works, you're going to want to run right back to your comfort zone, what you know, and stay there. What I do is the growth is when I guide you through the freak out zone, is guiding you through all the fears and doubts that pop up during this time. Like, am I really worth this amount of money? Nobody will ever pay me. What can I offer them? What if I can't give them results? All the stuff that pops up, guiding you through that. And then ultimately getting you into your zone of brilliance. And that's when all the cool stuff happens. That's when, you get all these amazing opportunities. You're attracting clients, you're making money, you're happy, it's not just about that, but you're really living a really great life. So
back to believing.
Yeah.
Back to believing in yourself, really. Yeah. So given that we are talking about, you've sort of answered the question I was about to ask you, because it's so important to all of us, however successful we are, about rejections. And you sort of answered that about Brilliance, but how do you really deal with rejections personally? Share with us, how does that work?
Sure. So I have a couple of different ways, and it really depends on kind of what my mood is. As you may or may not know, I'm an expert in a technique called tapping.
Yes.
So I tap. If it's such a deep rejection, I will work with my mindset coach who will tap with me. I also teach, and is to not take things personally.
Yes.
Very much into the 4 agreements, that chapter, which is huge because it really has very little to do with me. It has more to do with the other person. And then I also look and say too, I put some space in between and say, is there anything here I own? Yeah. Because Jack Canfield has this expression that you say next. Jack, I used to interview him several times when I had my radio show, and I loved how he said that. It's next. It's like, it's not, my life does not end because someone says no. But I do also look and say, is there something maybe I could do differently? Do I need a little bit additional training from my coach? Maybe I didn't prepare enough for it, or whatever the thing might be. I don't own the whole thing, but I also look at, is there something that I need to
taking responsibility and learning from that process, really, as you go along, and moving on as well. So there's 3 parts to it, isn't it, in that process? Excellent.
Yeah.
I love that tip. So let's deal with some objections and some myth busting, because I think it's always important. People listening to this might be, I'm sure they'll be fired up by what you're saying, but they also will be sitting there. This is the mindset piece, the inner mind piece. Yes, great for Kate, great for Hiru, but I'm not sure. So let's deal with some of the objections that are coming to mind to me. So things like, can I really make a decent amount of money from my own business, having never really managed to cross that, say, 5-figure, 6-figure bridge? Or I am crossing the 6-figure bridge, but actually I'm not making the profit that I need. So I'm working like mad, but not doing it. So listening to Kate is inspiring me, but can I really do that? What would you say, Kate?
So a couple of things. There's, again, I put on both hats, the marketing, the strategy side, as well as the mindset
good
side. So kind of working backwards on the second one, rather, you said about, okay, I'm making 6 figures, but I'm not making profit.
Yeah.
So what I would honestly do is say, whether it's me or Haru or somebody, you got to hire somebody to help you kind of look and see, are you spending your money correctly? The other thing you want to look at too is, are you working in your business instead of on your business?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a big thing we do, and I know I get guilty of it too. Do you get guilty of it?
Absolutely.
Get caught up. So what that really means, if you haven't heard that expression, is that you get so caught up with the minutia, all the little stuff, that instead of focusing your zone of brilliance, so your money making is in your zone of brilliance. So if you're caught up in, let's say, setting up an e-zine or something like that, and that's not your zone of brilliance, you shouldn't be doing it. And let's say you're a social media person, do your social media stuff. Hire somebody for $5, $10, $15, $20 an hour, wherever, there are all different ranges all over the world, up to $100 an hour for that type of thing. Hire somebody so that way you can stay in your own place. So I would tell you that for strategy. I would also want to know too, for mindset piece, kind of questions like, what's the most amount of money you've ever made?
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what your money stories are. I want to know why you're doing this, because if it's just about the money, we all know we could just go get a job somewhere. It'd certainly be
absolutely. And that's usually not the right driver for success anyway, not long-term success in my book.
Exactly. So really, actually, for all of those questions, I would go back to both the strategy and the mindset. So what are you doing? For the person who isn't making much money, I'd really want to know what they're doing, because I find that most people I work with who are not making much money, they spend a lot of time in front of the computer.
Yes.
You're doing that. I know you're doing that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Get out.
Yeah, get out, talk to people, do things. Absolutely. And it sort of leads into the next 2 that I'm going to ask you to bust as well in terms of myths. And one of them, you've sort of, again, touched upon it, which is, you said about charging. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to ask a slightly different question, which is, I'm not good enough to charge what others do. That's a very common one that I come across, because like you can't be a business coach without dealing with the mindset piece. So I do. And many, many people will say, and I, like you, are also suggesting that sometimes they're undercharging, or maybe they should have a range of products with different pricing. And often there's this reluctance, however established they are, that they're just not good enough to charge what others do. What would you say to that? And
I think that's a really, really common fear, because I think it does tend to happen, because in the beginning you might be charging $50, and I'm using US, dollars, and then maybe you go to 100, then it's $250. So every time you do it, there's always going to be a twinge of that.
Yeah.
And again, what I like to do is the mindset work, the person's beliefs about themselves. Again, I want to know what their relationship is with money.
Okay.
Because people are holding money stories, and especially if you're the type of person who is a healer, that's why to me I had a lot of conflict, because the work I do is part people's inner story, their inner game, and so there's a lot of like, oh no, you can't charge money to help. So it's really how people kind of work through that. So what you have to understand is that you probably are holding on to a lot of stories, and what I call a Kateism is it's time to return that old story to the library and write a new one. want to change, okay? Because you do have to start changing your beliefs about yourself, about your services, and understand the value of them, as well as your relationship with money. That all has to change.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So let's go for your number one tip for listeners. What would be your number one tip for listeners? If I had to press you for just one.
Get out of your comfort zone.
Fabulous.
So back to that thing, like, you're sitting behind the computer, get out.
Yeah. Simple, but so effective. If once you can just get your head around that, move out of that comfort zone, in every shape and form. It's not just about the physical, get out and out there, but then start thinking differently as well. Get out of your comfort zone, in terms of the mindset as well. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So tell me, what's been your most surprising moment? What's the most surprising thing you've ever learned in your journey, irrespective of whether you're a flight attendant or indeed as a business owner, but most ideally as a business owner?
So I'm going to say this, and I'm going to ask you to understand I'm not coming from a place of ego.
Okay.
And it's something I hope everybody listening feels the same way. It's just that constant reminder about how powerful the work I do is.
Okay.
And I just had a coaching session with somebody, and there was something she had been dealing with for years.
Mm-hmm.
And during our work together, a memory popped up that was like, I don't know, like 8-9 years old. And, that happened 8-9 years ago. And just, it shifted everything. And she got off the call and she's like, I see the path. I'm empowered. I get to choose what I'm doing. I don't have to make someone else give them the power. I'm taking my power back. And just seeing this and going like, oh my gosh, I just love this.
It's a lovely feeling, isn't it? And it's very inspiring.
Exactly. And this is what I'm just sharing that, because this is why I always have to take a deep breath when I say this. This is why I do what I do, because when I help people shift, that not only do they shift, but everybody in their world shifts because they're showing up in a bigger way, and everybody in those people's world shifts. And that's how I want everyone to feel. And that's why the work I do, like when I do a training webinar or any of that stuff, is so important, because I figure if I can inspire, also help someone make a transformation, all these things, then they're showing up in a bigger way. And that's what they're meant to do. They're not meant to play small. You're not meant to play small. I'm not meant to play small. One of my most favorite poems is one by Marianne Williamson, who am I not to be brilliant,
Absolutely. And actually, it doesn't feel egotistical at all, listening to you, because if you were being egotistical, you would have just come out with it, and you can hear that you say it, but with humility. So it doesn't.
Excited for her,
yeah, absolutely, it is. But the thing is, one of the things listening to you, and I certainly, felt this myself when I've coached someone and they've had an inspiring moment, or an aha moment, that it feels fantastic that you've been able to help them to get there. But I feel that you said, it'll have an impact on them. It'll have an impact on all those in their lives. But I feel that as coaches, we too grow that.
Absolutely.
That movement happens for us as well in that moment, because we have grown as a result of them growing, so for me it's a very enlightening process. So I completely hear what you're saying, and I'm delighted to hear that that was the most surprising thing for you, to see that transformation. I guess that's what you're saying, that you can bring to others.
I just think it's so huge, because it goes back to my system. That's what inspires me all the time, to keep being willing to get out and go into my freak out zone. Because otherwise, if we didn't see the value in what we do, which goes back to our whole, we talk about the pricing thing, about making money, that the only way you're going to grow is by willing to take that risk. Again, back to what we were saying earlier.
Absolutely.
And so when you understand the power of your work, whether you're a VA, whether you're a social media expert, whether you're a book writing coach, whether you're whatever you do, it doesn't matter. But when you understand the power of your work, and that you really have no right to play it small.
Absolutely. Why would you? Why would want to? Once you realize that there are no boundaries really, and no barriers.
Exactly.
Absolutely no barriers. Well, Kate, we are close to approaching the end of the interview, but before we end, what I want to do is I want to just highlight some takeaways I've got from this for the audience as well. What struck me was something that you've shared, and actually there is a pattern to this. Those listening to the previous interviews will also know, and certainly I come across this a lot, is that having lots of clients doesn't necessarily mean that you have a profitable business. And that was one of the things that struck me from the conversation that we've just had. Also, the point you made about growing or dying, you've got to be in one phase or the other. That's a really important point, and I would urge listeners to really bear that in mind. And also that no one believes in your dreams unless you do. It's so true, so very true, that it's so important to get your head around that. And also not to get caught up in the minutiae, because in doing so, you can't be being brilliant in yourself. I mean, I think those are really, really powerful takeaways for me. So I wanted to just let the listeners know that you have so very kindly agreed to invite the listeners to a free webinar training that you've got coming up, where you are going to be sharing your whole sales conversation. And I just want to be sure people understand this. This is something that Kate actually charges thousands of dollars for normally, and she is making this complimentary webinar training available for listeners on this program. It's going to be happening in the middle of March, but you can go ahead and sign up for it straight away by actually going to effortlessenrollmentsecrets.com/Hiru. So that's effortlessenrollmentsecrets, all one word, .com/Hiru. I know it's going to be full of the most amazing tips that you're going to receive, actual tips on how to have a sales conversation end to end. This is going to be a brilliant resource for you. If you've enjoyed what Kate has had to say, and I'm sure you have, go ahead and opt in for this webinar, because it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Kate, can I just thank you for being a brilliant guest? Thank you for sharing all your successes as well as some of your anxieties, and being so candid about all that you've had to say today. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you so much for this. I as you can tell, I love sharing my message from Boston. And for those of you who are listening and watching, I really hope you join me on this upcoming webinar. It's brand new. I've never done it before. I am over the moon excited. My coach is like, I can't believe you're doing this. She goes, people pay thousands and thousands of dollars, but I'm just like, this is the year, man. This is the year. Everyone's going to get out and show up in their brilliance. So I hope
I will be there. I'm sure the listeners will be there too. Looking forward to it.